So it's been a while since I've done a video, and mostly because I've been busy as hell just with life, but also because on the car front not a lot's happened. But more about that in a minute. Firstly, subscribe, hit like if you like it, hit unlike if you don't like it. But mostly because there's going to be more content coming very soon, because I am going to start working on stuff on the 912. But this video is more about the 996. But I'd also appreciate it if you guys went and checked out the Porsche Cooled podcast. That's a podcast run by Michael Bath. He lives in between London, Bahrain, and Sydney, and he he does a podcast about all things Porsche. He owns a 997, the first gen one of those, and he's in the market for a 912. But he does this great podcast, and the latest one, which is I think episode 3 in the Porsche Owner Stories series that he's doing, and I'm a guest on that podcast. Really enjoyed the chat with him, and hopefully we'll do a catch up with him at some time in the future when I've made more progress with my 912. So that'd be great. And also I saw a few people doing on YouTube. I was just, because you know your feed gets influenced by whatever you've been looking at, and I saw a few buyer's guides come up about Porsche 996s, and some of them concentrated on getting the best one possible, others on the things you need to check for a high mileage one, and a lot of them are, it's almost like they're gonna, sorry about the noise about the wipers, it's really miserable and wet outside, but a lot of them, they're almost, I feel bad saying this, but a lot of them are almost like they're a warning. They're a warning. These are the things that could happen if you go and buy a Porsche. And if you think you're going to get one on a budget, these things might happen and they're awful and it'll be the end of the world. Because everybody's stretching their budget. And I don't think anybody should do that. If you think about, and I'll repeat some of the things that I've said before, but I thought, why did I do my alternative buyer's guide for a 996? And that is one that most people probably shouldn't follow the way that I did it, because let's face it, that was just dumb. But if you take a few precautions and you ask, let's say for example you've got a small budget and you just want to be driving a 911, you don't want one to polish, to put in the garage, to have it increase in value. You just want to drive, and that's pretty much what I wanted. But I did it really quickly. I did it on impulse, mostly because I know me, and I know I would have talked myself out of it. And then if I'd done all that research that everyone else talks about, then I would have gone, oh my god, IMS, the horrors that could await, the servicing, whatever that might be. Now, for me, if someone's got a small budget, and then maybe they're not even thinking of, you could be listening now, maybe you're not even thinking about buying a 911. And of course, day-to-day driving entry point for a 911 is a 996, let's face it. It's an early 996. And if you've got a budget and you think, I do want to be driving a 911, I want the fun of it, but I don't want the huge hassle of it, then you're better off getting closer to what I did than what somebody else did. So, for example, if you just filtered, you get your criteria together. So mine was, if I follow my own guidance now after 18 months of ownership, but with a similar methodology, then I would go, okay, I would filter on the same requirements I had back then, which is manual, hardtop, two-wheel drive with an MOT. So if I put the search criteria into AutoTrader, and I then sorted the list by the cheapest, and then I went to see it, and okay, I'll do some basic checks. I'll check that the head gasket is on the way out. Has it had a recent clutch? Mileage and cosmetic condition is not that important, because remember, we're just talking about being able to buy one and drive it and just enjoy it every day. And so cosmetically, it's not that important, but you need to know that it's looked after. Are the tyres okay? Have the brakes been done recently? Possibly has the clutch been done recently? And has it had any major engine work recently? But once you get over that, those are really easy ones. Then you go, has it have some service history? It doesn't need to be the detailed, catalogued, War and Peace style massive folder about service history. And then you go along and have a look at it. Do this, all of this within a few days. Then go and drive that one that you've now identified as a possibility. And if you think there's nothing actually wrong with it, mechanically it drives great, and did you enjoy the drive? Did you put your foot down and go, that is brilliant? And then just buy it. I think that is the way to do it, because that way you're not bricking it every time you go out thinking, oh my god, it might get scratched, this might happen, that might happen. Because if it's the kind of money that I think it'll be, which will be 18 months ago it would have been under £10,000, but you're going to be around about £10,000, and then not including the anomalies that you see, which is rusted to hell or something like that, but or some kind of body scratches, damage or something like that, not including those. So worst case scenario, the engine will explode in 6 months, and if it's £10,000, you'll still be able to sell it on eBay. I've seen them going for over £6,000, where the engine's just had it and the owner's just gone, I'm selling it, it's dead, someone just come and take it away, and the bidding has gone up to over £6,000. And I've seen that on several of them. So that's how quickly you'd be able to go and get one. Do the basic checks. Head gasket, is it losing any coolant or oil? Check the exhaust for any oil residue, and get on the main road. Oh, that's so good. And then before you know it, you're driving a 911 and you're not worried about getting it scratched, and you can leave it anywhere. You could take it everywhere. Now in this one, I could just jump in it, and I know I could just drive to Scotland from the south. I could do 800 miles just like that, and it'd be fine, apart from all the petrol that I'd have to pay for. And I think it's a way to be able to enjoy having a 911. And the thing also to bear in mind is that if it doesn't get wrecked and nothing breaks on it, and you just get the engine oil changed every year religiously, then in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it will still be worth the same money. The thing is, costs can build up if it's, say, for example, you have to get tyres, you have to get the brakes done, the exhaust. They're all wear and tear things. So if you bought one at the top end of your budget and you said, I want to go and get the best 996 I can, then those same things might happen, and you'd be spending that same amount of money, but you'd have the added anxiety of, can I leave it anywhere? Can I take it anywhere? What if it gets scratched? And also then you'll have the internal debate about, well, I'm now into the territory of a 997, but then suddenly your whole idea of buying the best 996 I can afford, that the discussion in your head now becomes, should I buy the worst 997 that's out there? And they're just two different things. So you can talk yourself or procrastinate into inactivity, or you can just go and within a few days just start driving a 911. And do not be afraid to make a cheeky offer, simply because some of them, although they're at the lower end, have been there for a while. They've been for sale for a while, and a lot of people are a bit more afraid to make that kind of offer, whereas the owner would probably take that kind of offer. And what's the worst thing that'll happen? Someone will say no, it's not for sale, or at that price, or because you can't get offended. You've kind of put yourself out there and said, I'm going to sell my 911, and anyone coming along can make any offer. So if you went along and said it's £10,000, and you went along and said, actually, I think it needs a few things, and in my head I've quickly worked it out, and to me it's worth £7,000. You're just stating a fact. And if the owner is open to negotiating, they'll say, well, actually, I can't take £7,000, but do you know what, how about we meet in the middle somewhere? And then you can have a different conversation. But what I would do is think about it that way. God, these roads are horrible. Let's put our foot down and see what happens. That's better. But that way, you're in a better position, because you're thinking, I could very quickly be driving a 911, and all of the feelings that you'll have about it might break down, it might explode, I might have to spend lots of money on it, they will be no different between you spending £8,000 and between you spending £16,000. You'll have the added stress of it's immaculate, and I must keep it immaculate because I want to preserve my investment in inverted commas, because it's money that you would like back when you sell. And in all likelihood, you would get that back, but you've spent more money, you've got less scope for doing work on it if something does go wrong. And do not be tempted, if you buy one that's at the lower end for less than £10,000, do not be tempted to make it perfect or start modding it, because what will happen is you will turn it into the thing that you didn't want to buy, which is something that I'll polish in the garage. You want it to be that thing that you're going to drive every day. And I don't know, I mean, it depends on what kind of, if you're a Porsche person, a Porsche guy, and if you listen to this podcast, I do say that I'm not a Porsche guy, and maybe that's why I'm quite happy just to leave this outside, under a tree for weeks on end, and I hardly ever drive it, mostly because we're in lockdown and I don't need to go anywhere, but I would use it every day if I needed to, because that was the whole premise of buying it, that it would be my everyday car. And just these horrible roads, and because I don't drive it very often, the tires, I need to check the pressures, and I don't, so that's not good. But it's that thing about, you're probably buying a car, if it's a bit cosmetically a bit rough, then it means, but it's been maintained and it runs well and it's got decent tires on it and the brakes are good, then it means that you're buying off somebody who has the same philosophy as you. Cosmetically, they don't care, but they're driving a 911 and they're getting the fun factor, the joy of driving a 911 every day, but it's not tempered by that anxiety that I talked about. So those are the kind of things that I would suggest. I guess I should really mention the 912. So I've not seen it since I had that drive. Mostly because it's a long list of things that need doing on it. I've not asked Jack to do all of them. I've just said, can you stop the leaks? Can you make it reliable? Can you make the lights work? Make the horn work? And I needed to not smoke. And in the meantime, so with my MG, and again, I'm repeating myself if you've listened to or going to listen to the podcast, where I bought the 912 and 912 from, I took it, it's an online auction, classic car auction house, and I took my MG there to sell it, and I went out in it on a glorious day, top down, drove all the way there. So I phoned the guy first and said, I'm bringing it down, and he said, yeah, great, we'll take the photos, do the documentation, do the write-up, and we'll get it listed straight away. You can just leave it here. So I drove down there, got out, the guy came out and said, so this is the MG, and I just said to him straight away, I've changed my mind, I'm not selling it, because I had such a great drive there, and I thought, I can't do it. 22 years, I can't hand it over. So I'm on the lookout for storage. The storage is so expensive. So I think I've found some storage somewhere. So I just need to hear about that. I'm waiting to hear about that, which should be in a day or so. And then once that goes into storage, I can get the 912 back to my house and start using it. The weather's terrible, so I need to really have a good look on the underneath and see, is there any rust, is it leaking water in, that kind of thing. I don't know what I'll do about it, so I'll have a look, check all those things, and then I might look at, there's some sound deadening missing, and then I'll probably look at some electronic ignition. I think the exhaust is leaking, I need to look at that, and I need to adjust the suspension because it's too low at the back, and it's got that positive camber, is it called? The wheels are like that at the back. I don't like that. I want the wheels straight, and I want it to be the same height front and back. So those are the kind of things I'll have to look at how to do myself in the garage, and then try and work out when I'll be able to do that. It might be never, in which case it's going to go back to Jack and say, Jack, help me out. Again, it's the thing about money as well. I am completely wiped out and I am in debt because of buying that. So again, I guess at the back of my mind, I knew that if I just kept hold of it, it will probably still be worth the same money in a year or 2 years. But I would like to use it in that time. So I think it'll be usable, and it just needs some tweaks to make it better. But I do want to put steel wheels on it with a good offset. It's ridiculous how much steel wheels cost for those, and I'm going to look for a VW alternative. I think I said that in the last one, and I need to get a roof rack. So those are just cosmetic things, and hopefully I don't want to spend too much money on that, and then it's just about driving it. So the next video I want to do of the 912 is a walk around and all the things that I think need addressing, and also the things that I won't be addressing that probably need addressing, like digging under all the paint on the sills. I don't really need to do that. I guess if it's covering rust, it'll some point burst through. So we'll do that. So watch this space and look out for the next video. But that's my alternative buyer's guide for a 911. And there's a lot of talks about, people will say, oh, I've gone into a tangent now, but a lot of people will talk about that there's, listen out for clunks and things like that. Yes, but don't be obsessive about it. Don't get it up on a lift. Don't start, oh, that bush needs doing, this needs doing, that needs doing. Just look at, obvious things like, is it gushing out oil? 911s do have, the ones that, especially ones that aren't used very much, they have a slightly dripping main seal at the back. I did not know this when I bought mine, and when I looked at the underneath, I thought, oh, there's an oil leak at the back of the engine between the gearbox. I thought, oh crap, but never mind, I'll just do it. The more I used it, the more that leak went away, so it completely went away. There's dampness under the oil, there's oil on the engine, but it doesn't leak anymore. It leaked for the first 2 days, and the more I drove it, the more that stopped. So I would say, don't be massively afraid. Drive it, and if it does all the things that it's supposed to do, then you shouldn't lose. Of course, I absolve myself of all responsibility if the worst happens. I don't want a terrible thing to happen, but I just thought I would put it out there that more people could be enjoying 911s. If we all got hung up on buying the best possible one for our budget, then we'll end up not buying anything. And I think that's the thing that we need to remember. Anyway, that's it. So subscribe. That'd be great. Also, go and listen to that podcast by Michael. On it's called Porsche Cooled. It's available on Spotify and on Apple. It's on Spotify, and go and listen to the podcast. It's available on Apple and Spotify and all the other platforms. It's on YouTube as well. Just search Porsche Cooled, and he's got a channel, and it's the Porsche owner's story. I definitely recommend it, and let me know what you think.